Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630.
WMAL. 7 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, and I don't envy the job of our next guest. She's got a very tough job, because at some point over the next few days, she will have to stand on the plaza at the Supreme Court with a hefty health care decision, an Obamacare decision, on live television and try to explain it to everybody while the world waits. Shannon Bream is standing by from the Fox News Channel, Supreme Court correspondent over there. How are you, Shannon?
I'm great, Brian. How are you this morning?
Not to put any pressure on you, but I don't envy that job.
I've got my running shoes laced up and I'm ready to go.
All right. So what's the buzz? What's the word around the SCOTUS? What's the poop?
Well, it is the tightest place in Washington, almost virtually leak-proof. So we do a lot of educated guessing, and that's about it.
Well, what's the educated guessing then?
Educated guessing. So we have 6 different opinions we're still waiting on, but of course everybody's focused on immigration, the SB 1070 case out of Arizona, and of course health care. That is going to be a massive case, as you said. We do expect the opinion will be hundreds of pages long, and of course we want to get it right, but everybody wants to be first as well. So it's going to be an interesting morning. If we're handed that this morning, it's possible, but what we do expect is the court will add a couple of days this week, at least 1, maybe 2, to issue the rest of the opinion.
So do you think that it's possible then, it sounds like, that they may, because they know the importance of this, release the results, their findings on the healthcare law separately from everything else?
It is possible. I think that there's no mistaking. They know exactly what's at stake, and that the entire country is watching them, essentially. Last week, one of the days we got opinions, Justice Kagan began to read her opinion from the bench and said, I now have the case, Smith v. U.S. I know it's not the one you're waiting for. We all chuckled. But it just tipped us off to remind us they're very aware of the public perception of what's going on.
All right. So among the very many possibilities, what are the scenarios that could play out on Obamacare?
Well, the interesting thing to remember is it's 3 different cases that were sort of cobbled together in one humongous 3-day argument. There are 4 different issues, though. So first of all, you had the first day, is this case even ripe? There's an 1867 law that says you have to pay a tax before you can object to it. A lot of people argue that, nobody's paid the penalty related to the mandate because it hasn't kicked in yet.
Right.
So, is the case even ripe? The justices did seem ready to move beyond that and get to the heart of the case. But, of course, that's the mandate. Then if the mandate is struck down, you get to the next issue, which is severability. What part of the law, if any of it, survives? And then the final part, of course, is the number of states suing over Medicaid, saying they can't take the influx of millions of people that will wind up on their Medicaid rolls if the law is upheld.
So are there rulings on all 3 of those aspects? I mean, is it, say, 9-0 that, yes, the case is ripe, and then 5-4 on the mandate and whatever on Medicare, or is it just one ruling altogether?
Well, it's possible. We're not actually clear because, we have asked some very connected at the court about whether they're going to issue these as separate opinions or one big case and do it all together. We had assumed it would come together as one ginormous case. But it's possible they do break it apart into pieces.
All right. Now, I know you Fox, you do a whole lot of different things besides just covering the Supreme Court. Is there any buzz, as Brian liked to say, on Congress being prepared for this, on what they're going to do if this thing is struck down or only parts of it is struck down?
Well, there were these dueling memos that went out last week. First from House Speaker John Boehner cautioning Republicans, if they do get a win this week, if the mandate is struck down or the law as a whole is struck down, not to, quote, spike the ball. Don't go around celebrating. We still have a, economy that's in crisis, and there's still a lot to be done, and instead they should be focusing on how they're going to replace the law. They've made it very clear in both the Senate and House that Republicans say they're going to do whatever they can. With whatever's left standing, they intend to repeal it. The House and Senate don't have the best cooperation, being controlled by 2 different parties at this point. But the Democrats are also saying, listen, it's a very serious issue to the American people. Win or lose, Democrats need to step forward and say, we've got solutions. Here's how we're going to fix it if we lose the mandate. If we do win, then it proves out what we did was right for America, and let's get moving.
But it's going to be a giant mess. I mean, even Nancy Pelosi said that if the individual mandate goes, it's going to be very difficult for the rest of this bill to actually work. So they're going to have to do a lot of revision. I mean, they have to come up with some kind of plan to make this thing work if the individual mandate goes, but they say, you know what, you fix it, Congress.
Well, and that's where the justices honestly seemed most conflicted during that 3-day argument, is when you got to who parses this out. There are 2,000, 3,000 pages, and a number of the justices said, we don't know if there were deals made for certain votes. You tuck in this provision, then I'll vote for this. I give you this, you give you that. They said, how in the world are we supposed to undo and to know exactly what went on in throwing this thing together? A number of the justices said, listen, they're a co-equal branch. We defer to Congress. We're very hesitant to strike it down in whole. But a number of the justices said, we don't see what else we could do.
Joe DeGenova, our legal expert, was on earlier. He said, hey, if they only strike down the individual mandate and then you go to lower courts' decisions on what stands, there could possibly be and likely be another round of this health care bill that winds up in the Supreme Court sometime.
I think it's very possible, because if you have any pieces left standing, there's going to be a fight over what survived and what didn't. So very much so, the possibility that this thing goes on and on and on.
All right, so I follow you on the Twitter machine, and I saw that you were out to dinner, I guess, was it Friday night, and you drove by the High Court?
I did.
And you noticed that the lights were still on.
I couldn't resist a little drive-by on the way home. And, people say, well, it could be the cleaning crew. You don't know what's going on over there. But it was very well lit up on Friday night, and you got to imagine maybe the justices, certainly their clerks are there trying to hammer this out as they wait on a number of key opinions, but certainly that health care that we expect to be a landmark decision.
All right, and just a side note, because I do follow you on Twitter, I have to ask you, what possesses a person of your intellect to jump off a perfectly good building?
Well, listen, you know and love our senior producer here on the weekends, Lexi Stemple.
Oh, yes.
Her sister works with Special Olympics, and they had a fantastic fundraiser called Over the Edge, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They choose a building. In this case, it was the Crystal City Hilton, and you raise pledges and vow to rappel down the side of the building if people will help you raise money for Special Olympics. It's what we did.
And you did
and
it.
The viewers and folks kicked in, and I'm terrified of heights, but we did it.
You climbed up the Crystal City Hilton?
Climbed down?
I climbed down. I was not Spider-Man. I didn't go up, but they start you at the top, and you're locked in, and you rappel down the side of the building. And the best advice truly is don't look down.
Don't look down. It's pretty thrilling.
It really is.
Are you ready now to walk over Niagara Falls or the Grand Canyon like Nick Wallenda?
Listen, I don't have those kind of guts. I would do it for the Special Olympics. It's got to be for a very good cause.
I did that on a shorter building one time years and years ago, and I just burned the heck out of my hands.
Yes.
Did you have the devices, or did you actually just have gloves?
They gave us great gloves, and it was Lexi and Griff Jenkins and I and another producer, Aaron Vogel, all did it. And that same comment from everybody when we got to the bottom: your hands are just killing you because you're really managing your body weight as you're coming down. But they have you locked in tight, and it was for a great cause, and just a huge thanks to everybody who donated.
All right, Shannon. Great to have you on, and if it happens today, a lot of people will be turning on the Fox News channel to watch you. We greatly appreciate you coming on the show.
Best